once again. We're very excited to have you with us today. With me here, I have Fozzy Bear in the middle, and I have Doxie over here on the side here. Doxie, hello. Lloyd, say hi, Fozzy. Fozzy says, oh, it's tummy rub time again. It's tummy rub time again. Good job. Okay. All right, boys. So what we're going to be doing today is doing some more reading from our books. We've got some good books picked out today, and we're also going to be doing a little bit more on our art project that we worked on last time, and a little bit more of our Time Cat book that we've been reading for our older readers. So it should be a fun time. So let's start off with one of my favorite books, which is called Hello, Goodbye, Dog by Maria Gianferrari, pictures by Patrice Barton. And I really like this book because it is all about therapy dog work, which of course is what these guys do to help out everybody. So Doxie and Fozzy are certified therapy dogs with Therapy Dogs International, and they're definitely missing their kids for their reading sessions. So we're doing these virtual visits to bring a little bit of joy to our readers since we can't visit them in person. So we'll start off by reading Hello, Goodbye, Dog. And I love the pictures in this book too. They're very beautiful. So I hope you enjoy it as well. Hello, Moose, said Zara. There was nothing Moose loved more than hello. Hello was a ride in the car. Goodbye, Moose, said Zara. It's time for school. Moose put on her brakes. It took Mom and Dad to get Moose to leave. There was nothing Moose disliked more than goodbye. Goodbye was an itch that could not be scratched. When Mom checked the mailbox, out zoomed Moose. It was time to say hello. Two paws patted on the glass. Oh my, said Mrs. Perkins. It's my dog Moose, said Zara. Hello, Moose, said the class. Hello was a pat on the head. Dogs aren't allowed in school, said Mrs. Perkins. Moose will be quiet, said Zara. She loves story time. Moose lay at Zara's feet as Mrs. Perkins read a story. Goodbye, Moose, said Zara. Moose put on her brakes. It took Mom, Dad, Zara, and Mrs. Perkins to get Moose to leave. Goodbye was being tied up in the backyard. Moose chewed through the rope. It was time to say hello. Hello, Moose, cried Zara. Hello was having a book and someone to read it to you. Dogs aren't allowed in the library, said Ms. Chen. Moose will be quiet, said Zara. She likes when I read to her. Zara read. Kids listened. Moose's tail swept circles on the rug. Goodbye, Moose, said Zara. Moose put on her brakes. It took Mom, Dad, Zara, Mrs. Perkins, and Ms. Chen to get Moose to leave. Goodbye was a closing door. Moose pushed through the screen. It was time to say hello. Hello, Moose, said Zara. Hello smelled like homemade cookies. Dogs aren't allowed in the cafeteria, said one of the lunch ladies. She'll be quiet. I'll just read to her, said Zara. Zara read. One kid sat, then another, and another, until the table was full. Moose's tail thumped on the floor. What's that dog doing here? Asked Principal Evans. It's time for goodbye, Moose, said Zara. But Moose was tired of goodbye. The game of tag was on. Principal Evans was it. Chairs tipped, kids slipped, teachers tripped, trays flipped, And Moose skipped right back to Zara. Then Moose got tagged. Goodbye, Moose, said Zara. It took Mom, Dad, Zara, Mrs. Perkins, Miss Chin, Principal Evans, and all the lunch ladies to get Moose to leave. Goodbye was tagged without an it. Goodbye was tug and no war. Goodbye was hide without seek. Goodbye was being alone. Ah, woo! Yowled Moose. She needed to say hello, but Zara wasn't there. Hello, Moose, said Zara. I know you don't like goodbyes, and I have an idea. Zara took Moose to therapy dog school. Moose was tested on her temperament, check. On sitting, lying down, staying, check. On being with children, check. On being around wheelchairs, double check. Finally, Moose was ready. The next day, Moose joined Zara in the classroom. Hello, Moose, said the class. Mrs. Perkins, Miss Jen, Principal Evans, and all the lunch ladies. It says, welcome, class, reading dog Moose. And Moose has a therapy dog vest on. It says, welcome, class, reading dog Moose. Certificate, Moose, therapy dog school graduate. Today was hello. And there's some pictures of some real therapy dogs over here. Cool, just like our boys. All right, the end. Is that cool? Is that like what you do? What do you think, Fozzy? Is that good? Yeah, that's what we do, huh? We love story time too. And getting lots of pets and loving. So our next story is from a local author. And her name is Chaffee. Have you ever been to the Fresno Chaffee Zoo in Central California? It's named after Doc Chaffee, who was Jean's husband. So very, very cool. So they have actual stories about some of the animals that used to be residents at the zoo. And so one of them is about Moja. So this is called Moja the Lion Goes to the Dentist. True Zoo to You Stories by Chaffee. Illustrated by Ernie Hergenroder, aka Hergy. And this is really cool because it shows young Dr. Chaffee and the actual Moja, the lion, at the dentist. So that's pretty cool too. Moja was a friendly little lion cub. He came to the zoo when he was only 9 weeks old. The zookeepers fell in love with him. They gave him an African name, Moja, which is number 1 because he is king of the jungle. Moja lived in the zoo nursery where he had a warm bed to sleep in with lots of toys. He drank milk from a baby bottle. Every day, curious visitors peeked into the nursery window to see the furry lion cub. The zookeepers loved to play with Moja. They wrestled with him and threw balls for him to chase. Because Moja was little, he didn't hurt anyone. Then he started to grow. He grew bigger and bigger. One day, Moja scratched the zookeeper's arm while they were playing. Ouch, that hurt, cried the keeper. The zoo director, Doc, said, no more playing with Moja. He's too big and strong. His claws are very sharp and dangerous. Not long after that, Moja was moved into the big lion's cage. He liked being close to Chopper and Alice, the other lions. He roared as loud as he could to show how big and strong he was. Roar, said Moja proudly as he shook his head from side to side. One day, Doc noticed that Moja was very quiet. He didn't eat his dinner, which was very strange for Moja. He lay on the ground, rubbing his jaw. What's wrong, Moja? Do you have a toothache? Asked Doc. Doc gave Moja a checkup. He looked in his mouth and saw that Moja's front fang was black. It looked bad. It must be hurting, thought Doc, and he called the dentist right away. The dentist came to the zoo to examine Moja's tooth. Yes, he said, that tooth looks very bad indeed. Moja needs to come to my office for x-rays. So he made an appointment for the lion to come to his office. The zookeepers got Moja ready for the trip to the dentist. Doc gave Moja some sleeping medicine. When he was sound asleep, the keepers wrapped him in a net. It took 5 zookeepers to lift Moja into the van. After he was loaded and strapped securely, they began to drive away. They drove very slowly and carefully because they didn't want to get into an accident. And go zzz, because he's sleeping. Just like you boys all come here. The dentist waited for the van to arrive. When they arrived, the zookeepers lifted the lion out of the van and onto a gurney. They pushed the gurney down the walkway to his office. It was Halloween day, and people stared out the windows they passed by. Mommy, is that a real lion? Oh no, it has to be someone in a costume. I don't think so. It looks like a real lion to me. That would have been really cool, huh, to see a lion going down the street. The dentist rolled Moja into his x-ray room. He opened the lion's mouth as wide as he could to check all of his teeth. Zap went the x-ray machine. Zap, zap, zap. The dentist took lots of x-ray pictures. Yes, he said, this tooth is decayed and it is also cracked. Moja was only 11 months old and still had his baby teeth. The dentist knew he was going to have to pull it. I can't save it, he said. When Moja was in the exam room, he began to twitch and yawn. The dentist ran out of the room yelling, "Yikes, give him more sleeping medicine. I don't want him to wake up while I'm pulling his tooth." When the tooth was out, the zookeepers rolled Moja back to the van. Moja snored loudly all the way to the zoo. "Don't even think about waking up, Moja," said the keeper sitting in the back of the van with him. Because he's still sleeping. When Moja woke up, he was in his cage at the zoo. He was confused as he looked around and said, "Was I really in a dentist's office, or was it my imagination?" One thing he knew for sure, his tooth didn't hurt anymore. He opened his mouth, stuck his tongue in the hole where his tooth once had been, and flashed a great big smile. He was home again and he was happy. And then it says adult Moja the lion and young Moja the lion. Swahili for number 1. Let's see the pictures of it. What a handsome big kitty. And the end. There's some other books about some of the animals at the zoo. We'll probably get to read some of those on some of our future sessions because they're really good books too. So on Saturday, the boys painted these beautiful pictures. This one was from Fozzy. And this one here was from Doxie. And so they painted both of these by themselves. And then I helped them paint this one here. So that way it was a little bit better on the stamping. So what we did on Saturday was basically I held Doxie like this and I put his paws in some paint and then I stamped his feet like this and I did the same thing for Fozzy Bear. Remember that, Foz? And their paw prints. I made some pretty pictures where it looks almost like flowers. So what we're going to do is we're going to add to that and make it look just like flowers. So I have a cup here with some water, and I have some brushes, paint brushes. And then I've got a bunch of different paints here. Now to make this painting, what we did is we used washable tempera paint. That way it's safe for the dogs to have on their feet. And then we gave them a bath right afterwards to make sure that all of it was washed off of their feet, just in case. But this one that I'm using right now is acrylic paint. So if you're going to be doing this at home, you can still use the washable paint. It just doesn't cover quite as well. So if your parent or guardian lets you to use some of the acrylic paint instead, it's got a little bit better coverage, but you always want to make sure when you're using this kind of paint to wear a paint smock and then some clothes that you don't mind getting paint on if you get paint on it accidentally, because this kind of paint does not come off, whereas the washable tempera paint does. So this is one of my favorite kinds of brushes. Looks like this. It's kind of like fanned out like that. And so I like to use this for grass. And you can see I have two different colors of green here. I'm going to mix them together, but not mix them completely. So there's a little bit of each color in there. And now what I'm going to do is just bring it up from the bottom, just like that. It kind of looks like grass. We're going to make like a little flower garden here with our dog paw painting. So it kind of looks like that. So you have a little bit of grass. Okay, I'm going to put this brush back now. And I'm going to go get out a medium-sized brush. I've got this one right here. I'm going to use that same green. And I'm going to go and make some stalks. Fozzy! Make some stalks here. And all of the places where our paw prints were. It kind of looks like that. And now I'm going to add some leaves. I'm using the same brush. Add some leaves here, poking out here and there. So I'm just doing this really quick, so it's not going to look quite as good as if you spent a little bit more time on it. I want to show you just how to do it. So if you want to do this, if your pet's at home, always make sure that you have an adult that says it's okay, because some pets do not like their feet to be touched. So these guys, of course, they are used to having their feet touched quite a bit, so they don't have a problem with it. But not all pets are like that. Okay. And this is how it looks now with the leaves. It's starting to look a little bit more like a flower garden here. Go ahead and switch out my paint tray. I'm going to add in some color for the sky. Don't want a very dark sky because I don't want it to overwhelm the picture. I'm using two different light colors of blue, and then I'm going to mix it with white. So these are the colors that I picked here. And again, I'm not going to mix them completely together. And I'm going to use another medium-sized brush for that. The same medium-sized brush that I was using earlier. Going to mix the paint together, but again, not fully mixing it, so that way there's a little bit of white mixed in, but it kind of looks like clouds. And then I'm just going to go back and forth, nice straight lines. I'm going to mix those colors together. And I like to do straight horizontal lines back and forth so it looks a little bit more like the sky. I'm just trying to go around the main parts of the paw prints. I don't want to get too much covered up on them. But Doxie, he has those special, very fluffy paws. So sometimes his paw prints are all over the place. So I'm covering up a little bit of his paw print just so it looks a little bit more like flowers. But most dogs, like Fozzy's paw prints, are not going to be quite like that. Okay, so you can see it looks a lot more like a flower garden now. I'm going to switch brushes again. I'm going to switch my paint tray again. I'm going to go ahead and add in the same sorts of colors that I have on here. So I'm going to add a little bit of red, a little bit of pink, and a little bit of purple. Actually, it looks more like dark blue. We'll do a little bit of red, a little bit of pink, and a little bit of dark blue. Okay, now for this one, I'm going to do a smaller brush. I've got a little detail brush like this one. And then I'm going to use my colors here, pink, red, purple, dark blue. I'm going to use these just to clean up the edges here of my flowers a little bit. So what I'm doing is adding in a little bit of color here. So it looks a little bit more like petals on the paw prints. Okay, so you can see it's getting like an abstract garden here. And then what I always like to do to finish off is to go back to my green here and then go back over it one more time. Anything that I might have painted over, and I use my small brush for that. With my brush and my green. If I want, I can add more leaves at this point if I want to. Extend the grass up a little bit higher in a few spots here. And that's how it's looking now. And what I do for the last step, sign our name anyway. Get a little bit of yellow in a new tray. And my small brush. And anywhere it's the inside of the flower, just make a little dot here for the center. And some little. And up there too. It kind of looks like the center of the flower. So again, since it's made with dog paws, a little bit more abstract. But kind of a neat thing that you can do as a family. And then when you put it up on the wall or on the refrigerator, you not only have something cool that you did maybe with your kids, but also something cool that you did with your pet. And that's pretty neat. And that's how it looks adding in the yellow. And of course, the very last thing you have to do is you always want to sign your name and anyone who participated in it with you. So I usually use black for that and my small brush. And so of course it wasn't just me, it was me, Doxie, and Fozzy that made this. So I'm going to find a corner, usually in the lower corner here. And I always like to put the date too. That way you can remember when you did it. So we finished it today, 4/20. Okay. Well, there is our beautiful abstract painting here. All right, well, good job, boys. So you guys want to stretch your legs first, and then we'll do our time cat reading? Okay. What we've done before for the training part is I'm going to take them off leash. And of course, we will be treating them because it is a demonstration. We had some requests to get some of the activities that they do on their dog show at Wonder Valley Ranch for this. So we're going to be doing some of those activities. You might have noticed that we've trained them to do shake quite a bit. We've trained them to use their feet to do the painting. So they're very good about that. So this one is pretty easy. It's playing a little mini piano. Let's turn it a little bit over here so that people can see it a little better. Push it. Good job. Keep playing. Good job. Push it. Push it. Good job. Doxie, your turn. There, Fozzy. Give Doxie a kiss. Fozzy, over here. All right, stay. Yes, I know, you can play it. You can play it very good. Brother turn. All right, Doxie, your turn. Your turn. Good job. Another one of their variations is pushing a button. So we have a button, and I pre-recorded something in their show. They actually have where they are protecting a fort from a bunch of bandits. And in the final confrontation with the bad guy, Fozzy pushes the button. Push it. Push it. Good job. So also during the show, Doxie pushes a different button that shoots the turret gun at the bandits. It's just a noise. So push it. Good job. Nice going, boys. During the show, we also have a part where flaming arrows are thrown over the fort wall. And one of them sets Doxie's tail on fire, supposedly. So we have him stop, drop, roll. On fire, you gotta stop, drop, and roll to put it out. Good job. All right. And then, of course, because we have all of these dangerous flaming arrows, which look like this, oh no, we have to have someone put it out, right? So Fozzy, he helps us with that. So what we do is we smother the flames with the blanket. He goes, good job. And Fozzy there puts that fire right out. Good job. And we have this other little one here too. Put the fire out. Put the fire out. Good job. All right, he did a great job doing that. So in the show, Fozzy is the deputy and Doxie is the sheriff. Of course, they have to wear their cute little hats. Hey, Doxie. Strictly speaking, the therapy dogs aren't supposed to wear anything besides their therapy dog bandanas, unless it's a special occasion. And I think any occasion where we get to make you guys happy, while you guys are staying at home, taking care of yourself, I think that is definitely a special event. Well, for our last book, we're going to be reading A Time Cat by Lloyd Alexander. We've been reading that for a while now for our older readers. And we've been doing it chapter by chapter. So last time, Jason and his cat Gareth were in ancient Egypt. They can travel through time. Next time, right now, they're going to be in Rome and Britain, 55 BC. Let's see what happens. Chapter 4, The Old Cats Company. The wide avenues of Bubastis narrowed to a crowded street in Rome. Holding Gareth closely, Jason glanced around, wondering which way to turn. Before he could move, a hand fell on his shoulder. Here's the cat we want. Two soldiers in close-fitting helmets and belted tunics stepped up beside Jason. Stubby, businesslike swords hung at their waists. A shiny scar was scribbled across one man's forehead. Hold on there, we won't eat you, said the scarred man with a grin. The old cats have velvet paws in Rome, and claws in Gaul, the second one laughed. He was shorter than his companion, but just as tough and leathery. Now then, said the first, let's hear your report. The soldier stiffened and flung up his arm in a salute. Marcus Aurelius Bassus reports to Gaius Petronius Valens, centurion of the Old Cats Company. Mission, locate one cat for the honor of the company. Mission accomplished. What do you say to that? The man called Petronius asked Jason. Not every cat gets a chance to join Caesar's legions. We need a mascot, he added. And on the double, the company's ordered back to Gaul. Always had a cat, Arius put in. For good luck, you know. There's a cat that live on our standard. That's how we got our name. We still need a live one, said Petronius. The Old Cats Company, without a cat, we'd be ashamed to show our faces on parade. Our last cat ran off with a lop-eared Tom, Arius explained. I said it was bound to happen, he added critically. So, Petronius said, disregarding Arius's remark, hand over the cat and we're off to Gaul. He reached out. Gareth hissed and wrinkled his lips. Oh ho, cried the centurion. Is that the way of it? Shows his teeth, eh? He's a legion cat, right enough. Jason pulled himself up as tall as he could and looked the soldier in the eye, although the sword in Petronius's belt made Jason's voice shake a little. This cat belongs with me. Bravely spoken. Petronius clapped him on the shoulder, and fair enough, we'll take both of you then. Come on, there's nothing in Rome for a boy, and Rome's no place for a cat. Civilians don't appreciate cats. Put them in artichoke gardens to keep away moles, that's all they know. But the legions, fresh air, open sky, a good fight now and then, there's the life for a cat. Any boy in Rome would give his ears to serve under Julius Caesar, Arius said. See us on parade, Petronius went on. The silver eagles in the sun, spears like a forest, and Caesar at the head of the column. At the word Caesar, the face of Petronius shone with admiration, and the leathery look softened. I don't know, Jason hesitated. The centurion's words trumpeted beside him, but he remembered what had happened in Egypt. When in doubt, Arius said, ask for an omen. That's army regulations. An omen, Petronius nodded. In the Legion, we usually consult the sacred pigeons. I'm not going to chase after pigeons here, anyhow. That's a job for an expert. Well, I'll try something. Let's have that shield, Arius. Arius unslung his shield and handed it over. Petronius, throwing his cloak aside, dropped to one knee. "O Mars, god of battles, mighty Jupiter, father of the gods," he began, "or whatever it is the regimental augur says. Shall this boy and this cat march with us?" He gripped the shield and held it out flat in front of him. "Give us a sign." Gareth, who had been watching the centurion with interest, leaped from Jason's arms and landed in the center of the shield. Arius cheered and tossed his helmet in the air. The centurion raised the shield high in triumph. Gareth stood balanced on it, his tail like a banner, and with a special curl to his whiskers that Jason knew meant he was feeling exceptionally pleased. "How's that for an omen?" asked Petronius. "The cat answers for himself." "You'll be proud you followed Caesar's eagles," Arius said. "That's honor, courage, not artichokes," added Petronius. "Come on, boy, we can't keep Caesar waiting. The old cats move fast." During the journey from Rome to Gaul, Jason couldn't decide which was worse, the tossing ship powered by sails and oarsmen, or the cold marches through the forest once they landed. Gareth had no difficulties at all. He carried his tail as straight as a legionary's spear. With his lean, brisk walk and the determined arch of his neck, he seemed to Jason quite Roman. "I enjoy a comfortable bed," Gareth said, "but if there isn't one around, it doesn't matter. Any bed is soft to a cat." Jason himself soon got used to camp life. By the time the old cats reached the western coast of Gaul, he could stride along with the best of them. The company joined the rest of Caesar's legions in a great encampment. From there, Caesar would lead the army across a narrow stretch of water to Britannica, a land even wilder than Gaul. "But until he gives the orders," Petronius explained, "we've got a lot of work to do." From dawn to sunset, Petronius and the other centurions drilled the legionnaires in forming up in squares, throwing javelins, running, jumping, thrusting stored at stakes planted in the ground. Too young for military duties outside of cleaning breastplates and looking after the company's baggage, Jason, with Gareth at his side, sat on the far edge of the flat clay field. Petronius's shouts of command carried through the chilly air. Gareth watched the drill with interest. "These Romans know their business," said the cat. "It's worth seeing. Practice," he added. "That's what makes the difference. If you really want to be a professional, you've got to stick to it. We practice all the time." Gareth stood up and rippled his muscles. He made Jason think of somebody rolling up his sleeves before getting down to work. "Unless you knew," Gareth went on, "you might think we were only playing." He flicked his tail emphatically. "We aren't. Being a cat is a serious thing. Watch." Gareth lunged forward, pouncing hard, seizing a blade of grass with both front paws. "I've seen you do that when you're playing with a catnip mouse," Jason called. "Practicing for a real one," Gareth corrected. "It's the easiest kind of catch for anything on the ground. Here's a different one." Balanced on 3 legs, Jason curved one forepaw. Faster than Jason's eye could follow, the cat scooped to the earth, and several mud claws bounced up in the air. "That's for something in the water," Gareth explained. "You have to move fast and keep on scooping till you fish it out." Without warning, Gareth leaped straight up, his front paw stretched above his head. As he leaped, he spun around and landed facing Jason. "That's for anything in the air," said the cat. "Those are 3 simplest catches, but there's so much more. Hunting positions, docking positions, fighting positions." "I didn't know it was so hard to be a cat," Jason said. "Practice, practice, practice," Gareth said. "Remember that." The Romans had finished their drill, shoulder pieces flashing, his face streaked with sweat and grime. Petronius sauntered over to the edge of the clay field. He waved his sword in greeting. "Hello there," he called. "What are you doing, playing with your cat?" Jason nodded and smiled to himself. That night, it seemed Jason had barely got to sleep before Petronius was shaking him to get up. The centurion's face was tense. The scar on his forehead shone in the torchlight, painfully white and new-looking. "We're going over now," he said in a hushed voice. "Here, put this on." He draped a cloak over Jason's shoulders. For a moment, the soldier held the boy close to him. Then Petronius suddenly turned brusque and warlike, shouting at the legionaries. Jason wrapped part of the cloak around Gareth as a carrying sling. Jason had no time to be frightened. Within moments, the old cats formed up in ranks, with shields and swords ready, gripping their light throwing spears. Petronius gave a command, and with the rest of the legion, the company moved toward the boats on the shore. It was full morning, sunless and cold, when Jason first made out Britannica's chalky cliffs, jagged with the figures of men.
As they came closer, Jason saw they held spears. It was then that he began feeling chilly, and even Gareth's fur against his side could not warm him. The old cats crouched silently in the rocking boat. Every man's face turned toward the cliffs. Petronius picked his way to where Jason sat huddled in his cloak. He gave the boy a wink and rubbed Gareth's shin. "Nothing to fear," said Petronius. "Be over before you know it. Then you'll see how the old cats celebrate a victory." From the moment the craft scraped the pebbly beach, Jason was caught up in the massive legionaries jumping over the side, flashing to higher ground. The Britons swarmed down the cliffs, yelling savagely. Jason stumbled on the rocks, clutched at Gareth, then raced ahead, trying to keep up with Petronius and the old cats. Arrows sang through the air. The legionnaires hurled their spears. Howling and shrieking, the Britons poured across the beach. Then something Jason had never seen before appeared. Small, rickety chariots darting in and out of the clusters of men. Drivers reined up the shaggy ponies. Warriors leaped down, attacking sharply, and raced back. In a flash, the drivers wheeled and the ponies galloped away. Even the well-trained legionnaires could barely hold their ground against them. A wedge of shouting Britons cut Jason off from the old cats. Holding Gareth under the cloak, Jason dashed further down the beach to circle around and rejoin the company. But the Britons covered that part of the ground, and Jason found himself forced toward a fringe of scrubby trees. A Briton charioteer sighted him, spun his pony, and began pursuit. Jason scrambled higher up the bank, plunging into the woods, running blindly, going deeper and deeper. Branches whipped his face. A root tripped him, and he sprawled on the damp leaves. "We're lost," Jason gasped. "We'll never get back to the company." Gareth sprang to the low limb of a tree. "I can track our way out," he said. He stood motionless, his head cocked a little to one side. "But not now. They're still fighting on the beach," he said. "We'd better wait until after dark." Catching his breath, Jason collapsed on a boulder. "I don't care what Petronius says. It's a lot quieter being an artichoke. And as far as being a mascot goes," he stopped short. Gareth had begun to bristle. From the corner of his eye, Jason saw another animal crouching near the tree. It looked very much like a cat, but a little bigger than Gareth, with long, shaggy hair. Its eyes were round and bright yellow, its body gray and stripy. Tufts grew from the tips of its ears. The animal began a long whine, ending with a snarling, toothy kind of cough. Then it leaped. Gareth grappled with the animal in midair. Two bodies thrashed on the ground and turned into a spinning ball. One screamed. Jason could not tell which. Locked to his opponent, Gareth rolled into the bushes. Jason ran to the spot as both animals crashed into the woods. He could hear the ripping of leaves. "Gareth!" he cried. Jason forced his way through the bushes, then flung himself back against a tree. In front of him stood a bearded man dressed in skins. He held a long, ugly spear pointed at Jason's throat. Wow, that's pretty intense, huh, boys? We'll find out what happens to Jason and Gareth when we do our next session. Okay? Sounds good. All right, you're doing very well. And you are super cute. Good chick. Good boy. Hi, Fozzy. You look very super cute too. All right, so now the very last part of our thing here, we will go ahead and ask for any questions from our audience. Oh, thank you. Fozzy, kiss. Oh, thank you. Oh, you're good boys. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for us today? That's a good question. So the question was, do they like wearing costumes? They actually don't mind it at all. And in fact, sometimes they really enjoy it. They're not too much for hats, usually. See, Fozzy's trying to take this one off. Okay, boy, we'll get that one off in just a second. Fozzy, here. Fozzy. Oh, I love you. Okay. So they're not too much for hats usually, but they don't mind these ones really. They still do all of their tricks and they like it. As far as other types of outfits, they also like to wear those. In fact, whenever I buy one outfit for one dog, I have to buy basically the similar thing for the other dog. Otherwise, they will get jealous. So we actually have a lot of matching outfits because they will get very upset if one has an outfit on and the other one doesn't.
In fact, Fozzy actually won the Fresno Bully Rescue costume contest one year for one of his outfits. And every time he puts that outfit on, he gets very excited and he just wants to run and play and he just thinks that's the best thing ever. It's a blue skin-tight bodysuit. They call it a shed defender. And he wears a lion like mane with it. So he's an aerobic instructor lion. Any other questions before we head out? Favorite trick? Well, I think both of them, their favorite trick for people to watch is when one of them when the Doxie jumps over Fozzy. And I think that's one of the ones that Doxie likes the best too. He likes to show off. He also likes the Wookiee walk. Fozzie Bear, I think his favorite trick is probably his sit pretty. And he likes to do that too. Any other questions? Okay. Good job, boys. Can you tell them thank you? Good. Good job. Can you tell them like and subscribe? And subscribe? Good job. Okay. Well, we will have our next session soon, and we look forward to seeing you all then. Bye.